So it says I'm live. Yesterday I went ahead and I jumped on and we did an exercise about like what kind of energy to channel to the devastation in the world, right? And how we can be of best service and value is to follow up through action. If you're in any affected area, anything that you can do is going to be enough, right? Reposting, resources would be a great thing to do. Donating anything that you have that's extra. I have a couple bags of clothes that I'm going to drop off later. Anything that you can release, right? Because it's a cycle right now. We're in a cycle, okay? And giving what's been so good to you, right, is a great way to be of service to others. Anyway, so today what I thought I would do is I would let you guys ask questions if you want, okay? And I wanted to kind of do like a meditation and look at the ephemeris. So I'm going to pull the ephemeris out right now. So today is, pardon me, Friday, January 10th. Ooh, the moon is in Gemini. All right. The moon is going in. It'll be void, of course, for a little while because it's later in the day. So it's meandering from Taurus into Gemini right now. Okay. And, okay. So Mercury entered Capricorn just recently, right? In a very short period. And so we're feeling the tangible loss of like where we once were, right? And so the thought processes are taking us into these different understandings of devastation within us that we have created. In that, we're looking for viable matches to have a feeling that makes sense. When we make sense to ourselves, we're having a visceral nervous system reaction, okay? When you're pulling in an idea or you're pulling in a declaration of like how you're feeling or what you're going through, there's lots of different layering aspects that go with it. Mercury is trying to communicate to you about the land. That's what I would say right now, because it just moved into Capricorn. So how are we treating land around us? Are we treating it with respect? Would it be better in indigenous hands? Would it be better for the masses, right? So we're starting to look in that direction as humans. And we're learning that things are not things. We are all sentient. In that aspiration, right? The reason I think that a lot of people, one of the biggest reasons is fear. Yeah, that too. But I think that another reason that people feel so adamant to stay in their constructs, right? And the constructs are made of different aspects of beliefs and experience. And when they stay in those constructs, they were created for safety. And to come out of those without having a solution or something in place, it feels like that devastation all over again. So the idea is, how are you communicating to yourself about where you live? How are you communicating to yourself about what are you analyzing right now? There's a lot of analysis going on right now. Mercury is very representative of air and earth. And when it's in Virgo, it's in earth. And so right now it's in Capricorn, the grown-up aspect of earth. And right now we're experiencing grown-up aspects of earth. Everyone is all over the globe. The devastation is something that is reversible. If we are to, I believe, all right, this is my belief and my notion, all right, I believe that if we move into land stewardship rather than ownership, I think that that is what is going to solve a lot of our queries about like where we come from, how do we connect, what do we do, because that's going to tell the story in the actual reality that we're living, right? So it's at 0 degrees right now, or 2 degrees, I'll say, because it is at 2. Okay. And then let's see, that means that, oh, yeah. So then that means that Mercury is talking with Pluto over in Aquarius. Okay. Also with a little bit Neptune. All right. And so what would that mean, right? What does that configuration bring to us in that archetypal understanding? Mercury is a planet of messages. So we're getting a lot of messages right now. How are we reading those messages? Are we reading those messages to be of benefit to ourselves and others? Or are we reading those messages creating more, yet more devastation? It is an energy. It is an energy. It always starts in an energy. And in order for us to really solve what's going on, we have to move into solution. To move into solution, an entrainment has to be built, an energetic entrainment of solution. So you have to start thinking about things that would be better than what is in place right now. That will move the energy in that direction, right? Even if you don't know what's best, something different. So we're looking for contrary action. The action that we've already taken hasn't been enough, and it's created a lot of different things in our situation, right? So the idea is sit still. You're sitting still for 2 more days. On Sunday, there'll be a little bit of ease in your consciousness, just a wee bit. All right. Our nodal placement is moving for and closing a cycle, a huge cycle of Aries, and it runs backwards. Our mean node, it goes backwards in the wheel, and it does 18 months in each house. And so the last house for this particular cycle is Aries, right? And in this Aries cycle, pardon me, in this Aries cycle, it has closed a 36-year cycle, okay, thereabouts, all right, which closes a 72, 144, and it is a larger, a grander aspect of like possibly thousands of years, like 26,000, I think is what we figured out it was, all right? And that is a cycle of the wheel. So when you're looking at the Aztec or the Mayan calculations, they're pretty accurate. And there is a flow between the two start times, all right? So just understanding that the calendar was a communication of frequency. That's what it was. So when you look to see what the frequency is telling you, the frequency is telling you that the world is changing and this is the new cycle of the frequency. That's what it's prophetic. Okay? It's not time-based. Anyway, when you look at what the cultures who are indigenous to the land that they live in and reside in, okay, when they start to care, when the culture and the indigenous population start to care, right, because they've cared all along, now we're just recognizing that, oh wow, they're there, and this is pretty awesome because they have some ways for us to be able to operate that would allow us ease, right? So maybe some talking needs to start happening about that, like some serious talk. Anyway, so my platform this year for Body Studios, because I think that moving forward, we need a solid understanding of where we're going. So we've anchored into land back. Land back means a lot to me because it's stewardship. It's the indigenous population who understands and is connected to the land that we are residing on, all right, and knows the ins and outs of how to treat the land, well, not the land, how to treat Earth and sentient beings. That's plants, rocks, everything. They have a practice, they have a deep practice that has been ancestral and generations in the making for this time because they were told what was coming. We're all told what was coming in our soul. Okay? The idea is to understand that when you allow right action, what happens is magic. Magic happens. In the forests that surround us, there are indigenous roots that are edible that go dormant because the trees aren't kept the way that they could be, and brush isn't removed, and purposeful low fire burns and insects that like get removed through smoking the trees, and the trees are split in certain ways to provide canopies, and there's just so much to it. And the willingness on their part to do this for the land, right? To do this for land, to do this for mother, right? So for me, what we decided, right, as a team was that we were really going to look at different efforts to be able to help with land back. Like, what could we possibly do? And just becoming focused on that, there are many different ways to be able to do that. I think that this is a beautiful example of why it should take place. Land back is very misconstrued. A lot of times people think that it is, oh, they're going to take my home away. They're going to take away everything I've worked for. And none of it belongs to any of us. So keep that in mind. None of it. It's all very borrowed. It's very transient. You're here for maybe 100, 120 years. All right. That's not very long. It might seem long when you're 90. All right. And people are indigenous to the earth. Everyone. Everyone is indigenous to the earth. So relax. Okay? We're all stewards. And if you have practices from your culture that is in stewardship, then practice those. Practice those. Because we need, all of us, to begin to connect to earth and love her. Just love her. Love her and ask her what she needs. What do you need now, mother? What can I do with you? It's time for us to go into the stewardship, the caretaking of land, and helping and doing whatever it is that we can do, right? So we're building in some things, and I'm talking to some friends of mine that are very connected, and in that, we'll have more on that later, but that's what Body Studios is going to begin aligning to, because that's necessary. I think it's necessarily in a global way. I think that, I watched something that really impacted me an awful lot, and it was a gentleman from the Congo. And I believe he was a chief. And he was very awesome and eloquent, and I just loved everything he had to say. Something that he did say really impacted me. And that was how when we move away from the names of plants that are indigenous to our area, we move away from the medicine. We move away from the medicine. And I understood that to a certain degree. And then he said something very illuminating. All right. He said, the plants are named for what they provide. So when you have a plant that's a tree that provides a stomach remedy, and it's called in its own language, right? In the indigenous language, the stewardship language, because that's the connection, that's the melody of the being. That's the melody of the being. The name is melody of the being. Changing the name changes its construct and how it behaves, because it knows it wants to act a certain way because this is who it is. And when we change the name of it, like poinsettias are changed, right? There's a lot of different names from each of the things that we participate in that are indigenous to the land that we're experiencing, okay? Being in stewardship of that land is different ways that you can make donations to Native tribes that, like, land that you're on, right? And there's a land map. There's a land map for where you're at on Turtle Island. And Turtle Island extends all the way from the Arctic down to the tip of Southern America, all right? It's all of the Americas. That's what Turtle Island is. When you look at that map and you find out like where you're at, that's when you can start to connect with the groups that are representational there. You can look it up on Google. You can do a little bit of search and find out how you can become invested in your future. Okay. There's things that I know that we've all been aware of as far as being able to plant our own vegetables and be able to source our nutrient values. And that is a thing. That's a thing. It's a big thing. So, pardon me. There's a lot of drop-off centers that are close enough in LA if you're interested in the fire to be able to do something physical, right? And there's a lot of volunteer action that's going on. If you don't have time to give, but you have products to give, look up some of the resources that are out there so that way we can get those products into the hands of those in need, right? They're talking about being mindful about tap water use and things like that. So we're already in a drought. So we know the drill. The idea is that this isn't something that had to happen. All right? Keep that in mind. It isn't something that had to happen. It's something that is happening and that we are becoming aware in. We're becoming aware of future practices that could possibly help the masses rather than the few. And it's necessary. It's necessary to understand that Earth, who is being scorched, is feeling it. Every bit of her, all of the beings, everything is feeling it. I'm happy that we have human and animal evacuation centers. And the plants, the sentient beings who communicate for us worldwide, they're feeling it. Understanding that you're meant to feel. You're meant to feel. You're meant to feel everything. You're meant to feel the contrast of something as well as the benefit. And when you're in the middle of something and you've chosen a particular focus, you're going to continue to feel that. All right? So let's go ahead and be good humans. I don't know what else to say about that. Anyway, so that's Body Studio's focus for this moving forward, because I'm going to align with something that matters. I've been watching different content providers that have different services that they do, right? There's one who does heirloom seeds, and he's mapped out all the organic farms in the United States. Okay. And you can purchase heirloom seeds to plant that are non-GMO. Okay. He has a whole website for it. And he's a pretty young guy, but I really like him. I'm going to start putting these resources on our link tree. All right. And there's another one. Her name is the Garbage Queen. And so the Garbage Queen talks about climate change and like the effects of fossil fuel and all of the devastation that's being caused to the earth by corporate greed. Okay. And that particular product, crude oil, okay, is in so many of it, it's in so much of what we experience. So how do you start to extract yourself, right? I have a friend, and what she did was, instead of wearing synthetics, she started to exchange her clothes for cotton, right? But she didn't go to H&M or Zara for fast fashion where they're burning rainforest illegally so that they can plant cotton. What the fuck? What are you fucking thinking? What are you thinking? Right? Displacing people out of their homes just so that way you can like make a fucking blouse or some shit like that. Fuck off. Fuck all the way off. So anyway, all right. So you can exchange cotton by going to yard sales. Go to yard sales and see, like, thrift stores. Go to places where it's already used, because it's still in good use. All right. And it doesn't have to be discardable. It could become exchangeable. Okay. There's resources that we have access to that because we've been trained to be so, oh, I'm glad somebody else is taking care of that shit. That's how we've been trained. Okay. Now it's time to, right now, like all of this stuff that's happening, right, is internal for us. So all the internal powerlessness that we are struggling with has a lot to do with the placements of the planets. If you're in line and in sync with like astrology, okay, whatever your practice is, you're feeling it. There is a magnetism that's in each one of the planets. It has its own gravitational and vibrational pull. In that, it has its own melody or song. So it's this frequency and emission of light. It's a sentient being. So all of the planets, as they move, are going to affect us. And when I explained it last night to the class about how Taurus, the house of Taurus, or Aries, or Cancer, is the constellation, it's a constellation. So it's the backdrop of the planet's movement across the sky. Okay? That constellation is filled with stars. You're a star. All right? Well, right now we have Mars in Cancer in retrograde. So the first time that it went through, it created a bond between us and our emotions. Some of us didn't quit crying. All right? Some of us. Some of us are feeling the releases that we've allowed ourselves, because crying is 100% great for you. Okay? 100% great for you. It's an embodiment of releasing emotions in a very physical charge, and it's very clearing. All right? That's why crying is awesome. Cry for yourself, cry for others, just cry. Cry and let the charges out. You may not know that it's your 2-year-old that needs to cry it out. You may not know that. You may not know that at 2 years old, there was some travesty that happened around you. And all of these experiences that are external currently that we are putting our energy into and looking into, right? So that we can feel it. So we can feel the devastation, so that we can feel what's going on, because we bring it into our sensory awareness through a thought. We connect it to an emotion. Depending on what that emotion is and how it was attached before to another experience is how we're going to begin processing what we've just done. Okay? So the idea is to allow yourself to be enough. Allow yourself to be enough, because you are. You're showing up, and this is just the amount of information you're allowing come in. And there is change. There is change. The devastation is horrid. I'm not happy with the devastation. I'm saddened by the devastation. I don't have to live in the devastation. I don't have to ignore the devastation either. Speaking of it and lending support and my opinion can help. All right. Having actionable resources, right? I've been sharing them in our story. I think that moving forward, we all need to take an active part in our existence physically. And I think that with this changing of the guard, that is exactly what's going to happen. A lot of people didn't have a clue what was going to happen. And a lot of people have said that this is going to be, oh, XYZ, blah, blah, bad. And honestly, you're going to be great. You're going to be so great. Be in alignment with things that are contrary to the way things are now. By that, go to thrift stores, go to flea markets, go to garage sales, all right, for your goods, any kind of physical goods that you need, go there, okay? Do that. Do that first. You don't need anything new to wear anywhere. You don't. You probably have a bum thing to wear that you've never touched, okay? That's what I'm talking about, like that. Go to farmers markets, buy your vegetables from there, because that's probably a better source than the grocery store. Isn't that weird? Like, we think that the grocery store that is corporation owned and generated is going to provide us a better source because of the convenience. And convenience is overrated. It's overrated. It's what makes us fat and lazy. All right? Because we're creating more ways to sit still and do nothing. So the idea is to get up and move around, get to know the world around you, get to, understand that you are nature. You are nature. You are fire. You are water. You are metal or air, right? And you are earth. And they're all beings. They're very sentient beings. And you are part of all of that in the greater scheme of things of oneness. The idea is that if you want change, you really do need to institute it yourself first. And you have to know why you want the change so that your body regulates, self-regulates the charges that you've held that are being triggered right now. There's lots of things that we could do. I appreciate all of you guys. This, I guess, is a public service announcement. I'm not really sure. What I think I want to do is I want to come back to the broadcast, so I'm not going to go out of it yet. I'll end it, but then I'll add things in the post a comment, and I'll look up my resources that I mentioned, so that way you guys can kind of look at that. And the minute that I have more information about the land back, I'll go ahead and I'll post that and such. So really excited about that. Later today at 12, we have meditation here at the studio. And then at 3 o'clock, we have our body, mind, spirit class. And later tonight, oh yes, we're painting. I have my psychic painting. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. I hope you have a great day. Many, many blessings. That was a pretty good shift. That was a pretty good shift. It's amazing. Oh, the 12th is going to look pretty good. Love you guys. Have a great day.